And hello there. It is Friday Facebook Live with me, your host, Dr. Polly Heil-Mealey at Abundant Health and Wellness. Now today, we want to talk about mindfulness. We started talking about mindfulness a few weeks ago, but I want to continue that. We are located in downtown Humble at Main Street and Avenue C. And so while we're waiting on a few people to join us, I just want to kind of revisit mindfulness. We talked about New Year's resolutions and making sure that we're all on board emotionally and mentally and that kind of thing. So I want to continue that discussion today with introspection. Now, introspection is looking in. Some people do that really, really well, like they examine all the lint in their navel and everything that could go wrong does go wrong and that kind of thing. A lot of times they have the victim mentality, and that's not what we're talking about, okay? But we are talking about looking inside to see if we are putting our best foot forward. And so I've entitled this little video, Mindfulness and Introspection, but we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about self-limiting beliefs. We're going to be talking about distress and eustress, okay? Distress is, of course, when we've got that negative stress. Eustress, which may be a word that you've never heard of before, it's spelled E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. This is the kind of stress that is very good for us, and it's the kind of stress that makes change and makes us productive. So kind of want to give you a few things to wrap your head around today as we go a little bit forward. One of the things, or a few of the things I want you to get out of your vocabulary is should, okay? Should. I want you to get that out of your vocabulary. Ought. I want you to get that out of your vocabulary, because a lot of times when we say that, well, I should have done X, Y, Z, or I ought to have done blah, blah, blah. And when we say that, what we're saying to ourselves is, oh my goodness, I failed, okay? So, do we fail? Yes, we fail. Should failure be part of our everyday occurrence? No, it should not. And if we are mindful, if we are paying attention to what we are doing, then we're going to have a plan, we're going to have a thought process, and so we are going to negate that woulda, coulda, shoulda, okay? And then we're going to be just a lot better. So first of all, let's talk about distress and eustress, okay? So distress is the stress that causes sickness and disease. It makes us irritable. It makes us angry. It makes us sad. It makes us tired, okay? So that is distress. Eustress causes production. It causes health. It causes motivation, okay? So we want to eliminate all the things in our life that cause us distress. Now, what I want you to do, and this is part of the mindfulness, I want you to just constantly be in a state of awareness. And when you find yourself irritated, when you find yourself gritchy, okay, you want to ask yourself, okay, what just happened that I'm now irritated? What just happened that that person pushed my button? So you want to figure that out, because if you can figure that out, then you can remedy that situation so that A, that person doesn't push your button anymore, and B, you get out of your gritchy attitude, because nobody wants gritchiness, okay? People come into my office all the time, they're gritchy. We know that when people don't feel well that they're going to be gritchy, and that's okay, so we try and diffuse the situation. But this is not about us looking out, this is about us looking in. What is causing me? What is the distress that is causing me to have these issues? If we can identify it, then we can eliminate it, and then we can go forward with less stress in our lives. You know, a lot of people, when you ask them how they're doing, they're going to say busy, or they're going to say I'm stressed, as if that is a badge of honor. Being stressed is not a badge of honor, okay? We don't want to be stressed. We do want to be busy. We do want to be productive. We do want to be making a difference. We do want to be mentoring. We do want to be doing all those things that when we lay our head down at the end of the day, we say, oh, we did a good job today. We do want that. What we don't want is wasted time, wasted effort, wasted energy, okay? Because what does that do? That makes us sick, it depletes our energy, and it's not good for anybody, okay? Think about your emotions. Think about resentfulness, all right? If you deal with resentfulness, you've got some unresolved issue that is going to make you sick. If you feel, I'm never good enough, I never do it right, that's another stressful emotion that is going to keep you from being well. What about feelings of guilt? Now, if we go out and rob a bank, then we should feel guilty, right? We should not feel guilty for other things. So what are those other things? We should not feel guilty because we did not get everything accomplished in our day. All right, we need to prioritize our day. We need to have a to-do list, and we need to have a mindful attitude of this is what I want to get done, and then check it off your list, and whatever didn't get done today, it can go on to tomorrow's list. There's nothing to feel guilty about. Sometimes we feel guilty because we have not met someone else's expectation. Now, this is a very, very toxic thing, and I want to talk about this because, number one, we are not the divine source, okay? We are human. We will frustrate people. We will disappoint people, and it is not in our makeup to be able to meet someone else's need, okay? Now, there are divine connections. There are divine appointments, and there can be times when God says, okay, this person has a need, and it's up to you to take care of it. That is on a one-to-one assignment thing. That is not something that I go around my day thinking that it is my job to bring whatever you need to the table. Because why? Because I am not the source. So a lot of times we get disappointed or we feel guilty when we have not met someone else's needs or someone else has not met our needs. So what I want you to do is to reframe the conversation in your head. What do I need today? Who is my source? Is God the source? Is my husband the source? Are my children the source? Whatever, and it could be any of the above, okay? In my case, I do what? I come into the clinic every day, I see patients every day. Their expectation is that they will get well, and that's my expectation too. But it is not my expectation for them to think that I am going to heal them, because why? I am not the healer. I am a coach. I have a lot of information. Jesus is the healer, and it's my job to get that information, that healing strategy from heaven, and get it to the person. Now, sometimes it works. Most of the time it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, okay? But we don't feel guilty about that. What we do is we say, okay, we missed something, or there's an obstacle to cure, or something went wrong. Let's see what's happening, okay? We can do the best protocol that we can do, and it'll be good for 3 or 4 days, maybe 2 days, 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden something goes haywire. That happens sometimes. Now, what's happening there is the body is shifting, the body is realigning, but what we don't want is me feeling like healing depends on me, because it doesn't, and I don't want you feeling like healing depends on me, because it doesn't. Healing depends on getting the right remedy at the right time, at the right level, in the right sequence, and having all the impediment to cure being removed. And so when we are feeling guilty or disappointed or frustrated or resentful, we need to look deep in and find out, what emotional need am I expecting that person out there to resolve for me, and I'm not getting that. I need to realign my priorities. I need to realign my expectations, because that negative stress, that negative thought pattern is going to absolutely make you sick. So we don't want to do that. So, excuse me, I've got a little tickle in my throat. Let's look at some other things that cause stress. No exercise will cause the body to have stress. And I know I said the E word, okay? Nobody likes to exercise. Well, that's not true. There are people that go to the gym and they get this high, and I've never been able to do that. I go to the gym, but it is a on purpose, mindful thing that I do because I know it helps my body. Do I enjoy it? Not necessarily. Is it painful? Is it distressful? No, it's not. I just don't enjoy it. I'd much rather be, sitting somewhere nice with a cup of coffee and a nice book. That's what I would much rather be doing. But is that going to help me reach my goal of being flexible and pain-free in my joints? No, it's not. And so I am mindful that in order for me to achieve the goals that I need to achieve, then I have to do some things, and those things are in my list of priorities so that I can have the outcome that I want. Poor exercise, okay? Poor food choices and toxic relationships will all contribute to distress. On the other hand, eustress, which is the good form of stress, is choosing to establish and continue, that's it, and continue a good exercise program. It is to get adequate sleep. Now, some of us are night owls. We don't want to ever go to bed. But you know what? That's not smart. And that puts stress on the body. And so we want to establish and continue a good sleep routine so that we go to bed at a reasonable time. We turn off the electronics and we get the adequate amount of sleep when it is efficacious for the body to repair and restore. So there is such a thing, and you can Google this, there is such a thing as the circadian rhythm of the body. And what that means is the body is preset to recover and repair at certain times of the night, of the evening. And so when we are awake until 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning on a consistent basis, we are robbing our body of the ability to recover and replenish and repair. Okay, so that's not a good thing. That's going to cause sickness and disease. The good stress, maybe, is establishing I need to start going to bed at 9:30 so I can get all my preliminary stuff done and be in the bed by 10:30. Some of us don't take that long, some of us do take that long, but you need to have a consistent pattern so that you make the right choice so that your body and your mind can recover and recuperate. We need to have a adequate plan for nutrition. Now, some of us don't have a plan for nutrition, and I'll just tell you, in the past, that has been one of my issues. I get up early in the morning, I have my quiet time, I have my prayer time, I'll get organized for the day, I'm in the clinic at the end of the day, I have nothing prepared for dinner. And so what do? We do reservations, right? And I'm all for reservations, but you're not gonna get a good healthy meal if you're doing reservations all the time, okay? So I had to come to a place where I took that distress of not having a good meal plan and turned it into a meal plan that I actually have food. I'll just tell you, I have Home Chef. I subscribe to Home Chef. Home Chef is in the main, it's organic. It is, for my preferences, it is soy-free, shellfish-free, pork-free, and gluten-free, because those are the goals that I have for my diet. I order every Friday, it arrives every Wednesday, and I use that. That's my meal plan. Now, we do have official functions that I have to go to, so I don't cook at home all the time, but that eliminated a lot of stress that when I would get off work and I would go home and I would look in the refrigerator and think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do for dinner? And you know, you can only pull out steak and baked potato just so long until you're bored with that too, right? Nothing wrong with steak and baked potato. It used to be a great cause of stress for me when I would be texting with my husband in the morning because he leaves at 5 o'clock and I'm still asleep till 6 o'clock. And so we would be texting in the morning and I would say, what would you like for dinner? And more often than not, his comeback was, I haven't even had breakfast yet. I don't want to talk about dinner. And it's like, okay, if you don't talk about it now, it ain't going to happen, because by the time I get off work and I get home, my brain is gone. I don't care. And nothing's defrosted, right? And so I mindfully took that stress off. Now, that might not be an option for you. That might be a real expensive option for you if you have a family of 6. I have a family of 2, okay? And so it's a really, really good option for me. I have a friend that has a family of 6, and she does something called e-meals. I guess the E stands for electronic. She puts in what her family likes to eat, and they give her, I don't know if it's a 10-day meal plan or a 7-day meal plan, but it gives her a grocery list. It gives her everything she needs so that she doesn't have to really think about it. She just prints off that list. She goes to the grocery store, and she's got her menus throughout the week. So whatever works for you, take that stressful situation and turn it into a non-stressful situation. Why? Because when we are stressed, we cause sickness and disease and depletion of the body's resources, okay? So, this is a quote, or maybe this is, I don't know. You can choose to re-examine your beliefs and determine whether they truly serve you and who you want to become. Now, I read a book, okay? Somebody asked me the other day for one of my favorite things. I read a book, well, I'm still reading the book. I haven't read it all together, but it is called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, okay? And I can't remember who wrote it. I think it's Unlocking the Code of the Extraordinary Mind, I think is what it's called. And it was a Kindle book. I think it was even a free Kindle book. So free is a good thing, right? And so I started reading this, and he was talking about people that are really, really smart, like Tesla, and I can't remember all the big names, but he was talking about all these people that are really, really smart, and they did all these great things with their life. And one of the things he said is that we all grow up with a belief system. Now, I'm not talking about your religion. I'm talking about your belief system. In my family, we believe that Christmas lunch tastes better at 2 o'clock than any other time in the day. Now, does it? No, that's just our belief system. Why? Because from the time I can remember, Christmas and Thanksgiving meals, we had them at 2 o'clock. We would go to my grandmother's when we were kids, it would be at 2 o'clock. When I would go to my mother's as a grown woman, it would be at 2 o'clock. When my kids come to see me, it's at 2 o'clock. Is there a rule that says Christmas lunch has to be at 2 o'clock? No, there's no rule. And we have changed it. We've actually had Christmas dinner at like 7 o'clock in the evening, and you know what? It's tasted just fine. Okay? Don't make a big deal out of things that are not a big deal. But those kind of traditions that we think we always have to do that is limiting, and it causes stress. I'm just going to be real honest because people are really bound up in different things. We have our own business, Abundant Health and Wellness. You know that I am the women's pastor at my church. Well, there was a time when we had evening commitments, community commitments with the business, and I had 3 weekly church commitments in the evening. So that meant 4 out of 5 nights of the week, I was committed. And you know what? That caused a lot of stress. And you know what? I had to say, the church does not get 3 of my nights. And I had to back off. Why? Because being a volunteer, I was overly volunteering, okay? It was a good choice. It was a necessary choice. It was a positive choice. But the stress that it put on my life was not beneficial to my peace of mind, and it was not beneficial to my rest. It was not beneficial to my health. And so some people would say, oh my goodness, you cut out church, you must be a heathen. Well, no, I don't feel like that. I didn't cut out church. I just limited the involvement so that I would have time to rest. Now, you guys know that I'm a Christian. I always have on my wall, I have crosses all over my wall in here. If I turn the camera around, you'd be able to see that. If you look at my Facebook page, if you look at my web page, you'll see that I'm all about Jesus, okay? I am all about Jesus. But when I started looking at health, one of the things that I wanted was divine health. I wanted Jesus to be able to meet all of my needs, mind, will, emotion, and physical, right? I wanted to just be tapped into that divine power so that I would be able to be well, okay? And one of the first things that the Holy Spirit brought to my heart was, you're believing for divine health, but you're not living by divine principles. And it was like, what? I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't carouse, I don't commit adultery, I don't do any of the big 10 things, right? I don't do any of that. And the Holy Spirit spoke to my heart and said, but you don't rest. And rest is a biblical principle. A Sabbath one day out of 7 where we rest is a biblical principle. And so it's okay to realign yourself. It's okay to say, going to church every time the door is open, that's what I learned growing up. That's what we did as a family. But you know what? And no harm, no foul to my parents, because I love my parents and my parents are awesome. But because they did not have balance in their life, their marriage broke up. Okay? And we became children of divorce, right? My parents are godly. My parents are spirit-filled. My parents they're just awesome. But they didn't have balance. And so one of the things that I had to decide early on when my children were young, because we were in the ministry and we did all these kind of volunteer things, and we were holding Bible studies and we were teaching at the university and we were having church service and all that. My husband came to me and he said, we're not having any time for the children. We need to pare back. Well, that was an ungodly thing, right? Because forsake not the assembling of yourself. And here I am preaching, and I don't even know why I'm doing this because that was not on my notes. I'm just saying these are some good beliefs, but if they don't fit your life at the time where you are and they're causing you stress, then you need to change your beliefs. That's really the bottom line, okay? So the more stress you create or apply to your lives, the sooner we can actualize our dreams, okay? So distress keeps us from actualizing our dreams. Now, what are our dreams? Well, depends on our stage of life. We might be in retirement and we want to be volunteer and go to the hospital or do games. I don't know. I'm not retired, so I don't really know what that looks like. I have my own business, and one of my goals is I want to be the best that I can be, and all of my people have 100% recovery and all that kind of stuff. Now, that's just not realistic that I would have 100%, but it's all good. We do what we can, and if I'm under stress, then I'm not going to have that pipeline open to divine strategies, and I'm not going to be able to communicate clearly. So whatever your dream is, what I want you to do is to be mindful, look in and find out what is causing you to not realize that dream. It's probably a false expectation. It's probably a belief that limits you. It's probably a belief that you used to have, that used to work for you, that doesn't work for you anymore. And can I just give you permission to change your belief? Now, I'm not saying we don't trust Jesus. I'm not saying we don't believe that. I'm not saying that the tenets of the faith are open to discussion. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is things that I should do, things that I ought to do because my mama told me I ought to, or my pastor told me I ought to. They may not work for me anymore. And so Jesus wants me to be stress-free, okay? Stress is a byproduct of fear. Fear of not measuring up, fear of letting someone down, fear of failure. In fact, almost all of the limiting beliefs with stress are fear of failure. So let me see, what do I have on my paper? Do I have anything else on my paper? I've got some papers here. I was reading, I've started reading the Epic Times, okay? I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is a great little paper. It comes out just once a week. And this little article cracked me up. It says, when the truth sets you free. And this lady is a psychotherapist, an interfaith minister, public speaker, workshop leader, and all that kind of stuff. So she's talking about how the subtitle of this is how finding your no can change your whole world. And she has a sister-in-law. I don't know all the particulars. I read the article, but she had this sister-in-law that was mad at her because she was not meeting her needs. Now, she doesn't say what the needs were, but they had this argument of, you should meet my need. I'm not supposed to meet your need. You should meet my need. I'm mad at you because you're not meeting your need. She was feeling guilty because she wasn't lifting up to her expectation, right? And so she did some introspection, and she said, when I really got down to it, it wasn't a I'm not meeting her need, or I shouldn't meet her need, or she's wrong for asking me to meet her need, or I've met her need and it wasn't appreciated, so I don't want to do it anymore. When she got right down to it, the bottom line was she just didn't want to do what her sister wanted her to do. Now, she doesn't delineate in here what it was, keeping the kids, keeping the dog, whatever, I don't know. She doesn't say. But she said when it all boiled down to it, she flat didn't want to do it. She loves her sister-in-law. She wants to help her sister-in-law. But this particular ask was something she didn't want to do. And so she finally, when she dug down deep and she figured out what the bottom line was, I don't want to. And I don't want to is not a negative thing. I mean, there are a lot of things I don't want to do. I don't want to go clean out the toilet when the toilet backs up. That's not a want to. It's a have to if I'm the only one here. But in this particular case, it wasn't that drastic. It was something personal. She just flat didn't want to. And she said when she got down to the bottom of the barrel in her heart, I don't want to was okay. And she didn't have to explain, and she didn't have to feel guilty, and she didn't have to make allowances. She just could rest in the fact, I don't want to do that, and it's okay. You're just going to have to deal with it. And she said in this article that totally released her of the stress. It totally released her of the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Okay? It released her from the guilt of not measuring up to her sister-in-law's expectation. And she said it is okay, and it's very, very worthwhile for us to look deep and find out what is our core belief that's causing the stress and change that. Okay? That's what we need to do. Why? Because Jesus wants us to be stress-free. Okay? Jesus wants us to be stress-free. Now, we have families, we have children, we have spouses, we have community events. We are going to have stress, okay? It's just part of the package. But how we deal with that stress with mindfulness and introspection is a key to turning that distress into eustress. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful to you. My time is just about gone. I see that we've got some. Comments. I'm going to go back and read some comments and see where we are there. But hopefully, this will help us to maintain our New Year's resolution, and we can just move from strength to strength. You know, the Bible says that we are supposed to be changed day by day from glory to glory. We cannot become conformed to Christ if we are dealing with stress. Life is stressful. Some of it we bring on ourselves. So let's go deep. Let's do introspection. Let's ask the Lord, this is what I do. Is this important for me to do? Is this a need that I need to meet? And a lot of times it's just not. And so I push it to the side. I pray about it. I go on and I do what He's called me to do. Find out what's causing your resentment, what's causing your bitterness, what's causing your shame, what's causing you to feel guilty or condemned. Go deep, find those beliefs, change your belief system, or realign yourself. Sometimes we're in sin or we're in disobedience or whatever, and we're just not right. So realign yourself so that distress becomes eustress, okay? So that's all I have time for. Have a great weekend. If you're in Houston this weekend, it's going to be pretty chilly, so be careful out there on the roads. Do some introspection this weekend and rest, and I will talk to you next week. Take care. Love you. Bye.